Also my fault because last time. Hey, Alistair, how you doing, buddy? Welcome
Hey.
in, you monocled fucker.
Okay, look, Alistair, I just gotta say one thing before we start. Thank you for finally paying your tab and not making Craig pay your tab. It's been a while.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We got
And we
you.
know you get you. We know you're loaded,
Yeah.
Alistair. We've confirmed. I mean, we can literally hear you walking around with that huge pouch of coins. At least we hope it's a pouch of coins. If not, we don't want to know what is all that jingling. I really
Yeah,
don't want to know.
I mean, we kind of asked that mage to look at what the pouch was, but he didn't want to confirm it. He just told us it was gold. So maybe, maybe it is gold.
You
Maybe,
know what? Let's just say it's
yeah.
gold, because
Yeah.
if it's anything else, they're probably gonna have to ask you to leave, Alistair, and never come back. So let's just move. Let's just power
Okay.
through this one, Anbu.
Okay, everybody, look, everybody around the bar. No, just go ahead.
Oh god. So Frieren, amazing anime, has been the reason why Anbu has been crying for the last month and a half, and I consistently get messages, loving, very sweet, tender messages from Anbu, that usually start with "F you, Silver." And that's how I know that he's finished with a certain episode. It's been like music to my ears. It's been lovely. Chef's kiss.
Well, welcome to the TVD Tavern, everybody. On that note, and our continuation of discussing Frieren. Last time, I think we spoke about episodes 1 through 6, and I kind of have put us into like a 6-episode per discussion here at the table, simply because that's the amount of episodes I can probably catch up on before we are able to have our next discussion. But it does lead to at least a once a week, very tenderly, in like whispering in Silver's ear, "F you," for making me want to cry every single week. I will admit that I thought when I first was watching these episodes, I was going to be okay. I can tell you that at least for episodes, I think 7, 8, and 9, I was like, yeah, I'm doing great. 10, I was like, it's fine. I'm doing all right. Like, whatever. 11, I'm like, yeah, I maybe I almost did, but we're good. And it was a badass episode. And then 12, I wanted to cry because right at the very end. And I was like, I held out for so long. But no, I wanted to cry.
The image of Ambu crying and his mascara running is now engraved in my brain every single time we talk. Now it's just, I feel like that should be your new profile picture at this point.
My beautiful wings that I create when watching Frieren, and then they just disappear from all the tears.
Yeah.
But no, this show, the thing with Frieren that I really like, in the way that one of the things I've noticed with it, if you don't mind me kind of just kicking it off, I suppose, is a lot of this show is about how the past doesn't define you. It's what you do in the present. I think this show does a good job of showing that, like, obviously for all of us, we're going to have things that we regret of our past. I think it's kind of inevitable. That's part of the human condition and the human experience, or I guess the elven condition for Frieren, for example. But I think what the show tells you is, even if there are things that you do regret, you don't want to stop and just continue, or like you don't want to like avoid doing stuff and continue to live in regret and wonder what if. I think the show is very clearly about learning how to move forward with knowing what you've learned from your past and using that to find ways to move forward and like live the life that you deserve in everything. And I think that, like, yeah, as we'll get into it, Stark is a really good example of a character for that. Because goddamn it, episode 12. I'm not over it. I'm not over it, Silver.
It's good stuff. But sorry, I lost my train of thought. I just the mascara running is still what's killing me right now for Ambu. I warned him that this was definitely going to be an emotional toll on him. because it was for me. It's my mascara ran before yours. You know, some would say my mascara paved the road for yours. But Frieren has been definitely an amazing experience of an anime, and I recently started catching up all the way up to episode 22. It's getting way better.
Mm-hmm.
The animation, the fights, the lore, everything's been really cool. Last we left off, we on last episode we were talking on we had left off on episode 6, right? So right now
Yeah.
you've caught up, right? You're at 7. You've seen 7 through 12. So what's happening right now on 7 and 8?
So 7 is basically after they get past the checkpoint. Because remember how in episode 6 they were
Right.
dealing with how
They go into that city, right, where they get
yeah,
captured by the demons.
well, no, it was they got into a town and then they were told that they couldn't go because it was too dangerous beyond the border because the north was in turmoil. This was after they found out about the what is it about the oh, gosh. So they want to go north and they want to go look at Ariel. This is after they found out about Flannel and like the grimoire and her saying you're gonna want to like talk to people in heaven where the spirits reside. So you have to go up north, and then they get to the city and then they're like, oh, you can't pass. But then the guy's like, wait, are you Frieren? No, you can leave whenever, because they thought she was gonna go save them from. She was gonna go vanquish the remaining Demon King forces when really she's just trying to go talk to Himmel. And so this is the episode where they get into town when they do run into the peace envoys for demons. I think they run into a guy who is trying to travel through a mountains path, but then it's blocked by rubble, so they help him, and he's doing the whole like, heroes used to come through here and we have a liberation festival for them, but nobody seems to remember who they are. You look like the girl that's part of their team. And Frieren's just like,
funny story, guy. That is me.
yeah. But like, I think what was interesting during this conversation is they're talking about they talk about like romance and feelings, and like humans reproducing, and that's when Frieren's just like, well, I don't really think about it because we lack romantic feelings and reproductive instincts. There's no more elves really that you'll see anymore up north because of that. Since we live so long, we don't think about our population, and so we're quietly going extinct. So there's a whole discussion upon that, and kind of alluding again to how Frieren is kind of dense at her own feelings and emotions, but that's also just like an elven thing, it seems. So,
right, because we do meet a couple of other elves throughout the story, and they pretty much have their same demeanor, right? Of like very emotionless, more calculating. If anything, I think like Frieren's probably the more lively out of the few elves that we get to see in the anime.
Yeah, well, you can tell that Himmel has had an influence on her to understand emotion and to connect with people. Because when she first started with them, she didn't really want to connect with people because for her it was like, well, I'm going to live for thousands of years. Why should I get to know you? But Himmel's like, his death kind of reminds her that even if they don't live as long as she does, connecting with them is going to matter to her along the way. It's the memories that are made. And it kind of alludes again to, look, everybody, Himmel is like the Riz master. Let me just put that, like,
Riz commander.
Riz commander, because like this man was like, I want people to build statues of me and everybody with you, because I don't want you to ever feel like you're alone, because you're gonna live longer than us. This man was thinking of everything for her. Sure, he may be vain and being like, I want to get like the best pose. I want to be laying down by a fireplace with like, nothing on but like a little blanket covering certain areas. And I want you to see that, Frieren, but really I want like, it's for you so that way you don't ever feel alone because of how long you live. And I just like struck a chord with me because it's like, he's really thinking about her in everything that he does. And you can tell that he's doing that because he loves her and cares about her so much. And then Frieren's just like, okay, bruh, that's cool. Is that you? I.
Yeah, she turns him down so horribly. I don't know how he had the stamina to keep going at it. But I think because he kind of felt or knew that he was kind of chipping at her, which clearly he did. Little by little, I feel like he could see her little wheels, you know, kind of like when you sync up with somebody, that one person, it doesn't necessarily always have to be like your significant other. It could be like your best friend, right? But you can kind of like see, that's the best way I can explain it. You can see that person's wheels kind of like spinning. You know what I mean? Like when you tell them something and you literally can see their brain running the process of the thought of what you just discussed. So I think Himmel could literally see the chipping at Frieren and her mind literally like understanding everything that he did slowly in a way, or like making her always kind of like think. And maybe she would put the thought away at that moment and she left it to like meditate or talk about or think about at some other point. But all he ended up doing, I think, is, now that I think about it, the best way to think about it is he kept on planting these little seeds in her, right? That she would like almost graciously like take in, and then with time have been like kind of like flourishing little by little, because that's what every single one of these episodes have been like a little flourish of different things that she's spoken to with Himmel, right? Or that they've discussed and talked about. Every little new experience, every little new realization that she's had throughout this entire adventure have been flourishes of like little seeds that not only just Himmel actually, right, but the rest of the people like Heater and Eisen have planted in her, right? Even her master Flame have you know, thoughts that have like planted in her, and they've given fruit, you know. And we can see it on the previous episode, right? How Flame just kind of even left the book open on the page that she needed, right? And that pissed her off because she's like, this bitch knew. Damn it, I hate it. But yeah, sorry, I went on a rant on that. But Himmel just knew how to just talk to her, you know, and just they were just that in sync that he just knew how to talk to Frieren and have things kind of like sink in.
Yeah, I mean, again, like there's little things that indicate that even if Frieren isn't aware of it herself, it's like she's gonna notice it later. Like one of the episodes, and that stands out to me is how the reason why she is so obsessed with magic is because she said someone praised her magic, and it was Himmel who praised her magic. Or one of the other episodes was cleaning up a statue of Himmel, where she wanted to plant a specific, I think it was like blueweed flower, because it was from his hometown. So like you said, like even if she isn't aware of it, there's little things that, you know, show that she clearly had something for him that maybe she's not going to be aware of now, but down the line she's going to be like, I've loved him all this time. And it's beautiful and bittersweet in a sense of like, you know, it's going to hit her hard when she realizes like how much he meant to her. But I think at the same time, Himmel knew that like these little moments are going to help her realize that like, sure, they didn't get to reciprocate their love for one another in that moment, but now she gets to carry these beautiful memories of Himmel with her to where like she can still remember it fondly. So it's not a thing to completely regret, but like instead to treasure, because even if she couldn't reciprocate at that time, at least they were still able to spend that time together. So I think that's going to be a part that is going to be superbly devastating at the end of it all. And I'm going to be curious to see how it plays out in the end of Frieren, for her and her realization of him will love me. So God, it's gonna be good. But in this episode specifically,
He's already tearing, guys. I could hear it. I can hear the
no,
tears.
I'm not. I'm just
I
taking a
can taste
moment.
it.
Okay, how dare you? I'm taking a moment so much. But no, but I love writing like this, right? And the reason why I say that is because it's character growth in a way that's natural and organic. Because Frieren doesn't feel like she's being forced into having these flashbacks, or like we're not as a viewer being forced to see her come up with these random flashbacks for no reason. All of them serve a purpose to the story and her growth. Like there's nothing that is just fluff, you know? Like there's no filler, I guess, is the best way to put it. Every flashback that we see has a meaning or purpose behind it. Everything fits to Frieren's character arc and her growth in the story. And it really fits into the theme of what the story is trying to express. And that's, I think, what makes this show stand out amongst the field of many different fantasy anime that's out there, is how everything works to serve for Frieren as a character development and the overarching story of the series.
Gotcha. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for this episode of 7, they get into town, and immediately Frieren's like, I noticed something's off. Like, hey, yo, what's up, bro? She sees these demons. She gets her staff ready, and she's just like calm, collected Frieren. She's like, I've been through this before. I'm like 700 years old. I'm a cranky old lady that's like ready to kick some ass. Like these demons about to try to feast on some humans. I'm about to take them down. But what's interesting is clearly she's one of the most powerful people that is in that city. But when the guards pin her down, she doesn't try to kill them at all. She just flat out is like, she lets herself be apprehended. So we see her code of honor and her code of ethics, to where she's like, I'm not going to hurt you, because the only people I want to kill are the only things I want to kill are the demons.
Yep.
And that's where we find out that like the leader of the place, Graf Granat, is like, oh, these demons are part of a peace envoy for what's her name, the guillotine lady, Aura the guillotine, the demon, one of the demon sages of destruction from the Demon King's Legion.
Yeah, Aura
and
the
he's saying that because of all the casualties on both sides, that they want to have peace. And Frieren's just like, I'm gonna tell you right now, like,
that's some BS.
She says later, yeah, that's some BS. But what's interesting, and again, like what she notes and what everybody else notes, is like the demons don't look at Stark or at Fern. They only look at Frieren. They're just like, she's got bloodlust in her eyes. She's ready to kill us, and she's just staring them down like, like, let me go. Don't hold me back. Don't hold me back. I got them.
Yeah. She moves so fast that like everybody I think was so surprised. But yeah, cause she was not messing around. Frieren was like, oh yeah, I know demons. Whatever they told you, it's a lie. I'm just gonna kill them. Give me one. Hold my beer. I'm sorry. Hold my grimoire. She was ready to kill them. But yeah, you're right. Her code of ethics. Even though she got like pinned down by the guards and everything, even to that very point, she understands that these people don't know any better, realistically, right? They still believe that somehow, these demons want to, negotiate a peace treaty to avoid that, or avoid Aura slaughtering them, or whatnot. But Frieren knows that that's just not. It's not really the truth, and the truth is that they're probably trying to trick them to get something else out of them aside from killing them all. But yeah, she gets imprisoned, right? Except for Stark and Fern. This time I said it right, Fern. Yep. Just kidding, Uncle. Fern,
I know, I set you up so hard. I know.
It's okay. It's okay, guys. And if you pay for our Patreon, you'll find out why. Because that episode that will never air will be there, where I get to talk about Fern, but not really her name. I say it in a different way.
It's her twin sister friend.
It's her twin sister friend. Anyways, so Fern and Stark don't get, they don't get imprisoned. She basically, Frieren explains to them demons have always said what they need to do to be able to survive and get what they want. You guys need to go out there, see what's going on, and kill them, get rid of them, or because these people are basically all going to get slaughtered. And I think even Frieren said that this city doesn't have long. It'll probably be slaughtered by the end of the night, or I don't know if she said the end of the night or the end of the week. This city will be gone. It'll be up in fire and flames.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say because she says what Flam told her, which is that demons are monsters capable of speech, because they use human speech patterns and concepts to trick humans into letting them do stuff. And she understands and like you said, she knows that the city doesn't know better because most humans don't. They usually are more empathetic and kind, right? Because there's that story where Himmel, there was a demon girl who had murdered a little girl, and the family was saying to kill her before the demon could kill anybody else. And the village chief said, "We'll raise her, we'll teach her how good humans can be," and all this other stuff. And remember how he was like, "Sure, let's let them try it and see what happens." And then, lo and behold, after all these months of like the village chief and the family taking care of this demon girl and her spending time with the little girl, she ends up murdering the village chief and burning his house. And her reasoning for that was she could give the daughter of the village chief to the family to make up for the girl that she killed. And Himmel was like sad and disappointed because he wants to believe in the good of everybody. I think he wanted to believe that demons aren't, that not everything is black and white, and that demons don't have to just be evil. But Frieren is just like, we need to do that, like, had been from the get-go, like, don't listen. And so I think Himmel cuts off the demon's hands, and the demon's on the ground saying, like, Ka-san, like, mom, and calling for her mom, and then Frieren's like, you demons don't really spend time with your kids, you're not really a family, so why do you keep saying that? And she was like, well, I say that because that usually gets humans to let me go. Yeah. And from that day forward, Frieren is just like, I'm never gonna, I try to warn you humans, like every single one of you, every time. Demon's about to murder you because they know how to pull out your feelings.
Yeah. I mean, the demon is essentially the perfect predator for the human, right? It's like in the ecosystem, right? Yeah. I mean, you see the eagle, the hawk, and the rabbit, right? The rabbit is built to move fast and to camouflage, but the hawk is designed to strike quickly and to have these binocular-like eyes that no matter if the rabbit is able to camouflage with the grass, it can spot its prey, right? And here we're the rabbit. It doesn't matter how good and smart and strong and righteous we think we are as humans, right? These demons are literally the hawk that is built to be able to see through us and know how to be around us to be able to get us, right? But that's why we don't understand. They're literally built to fuck us over. But yeah, so they try to Ferdinand try to kind of like, let Granat, right? Which is, I think he's the royal in charge of that town, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
They try to speak to him and tell him, hey, they're lying. They're not really trying to help you out. They're not really good people. He doesn't believe them, right? Because human. We just talked about that. And then we find Lugner, Lini, and no, not Drott. Is Drott in the meeting there with them?
Well, I don't think so. Right? Drott, Lugner, and then I forget what's the female demon's name?
Lini?
Lini? Mm-hmm. Is it?
Yeah, I would never steer you wrong, sir.
You're like, I'm gonna steer them wrong as much as I can. But no, they do.
L-I-N-I-E. That's how it's spelled. I don't know if that's pronounced. Yeah.
They meet with Graf Granite in Graf Granite's son's room, and basically he's like, surprise, motherfucker, and then has like all these swords pointed at them, thinking that humans somehow could take down these demons, and tells him like, you know, you killed my son and all this other stuff, so why should I trust you for peace when like whatever. And then Lord Ludner looks over, he's like, oh, I see you keep your son's room clean. That's what I do with my dad's room, the one that you struck down. And then you can see Graf Granite's like, oh no, like family, shoot.
Oh, strings of my heart, and basically lets them go again.
Mm-hmm. And
Point two like, for the demons.
Yeah, because Ludner's like, haha, it is I. No, he's like, these humans and like their foolishness. I just said that to get them to like let me down, to like let us go, and to believe that we want to speak of peace. But really, we just want them to lower their city defenses so we can bring in our army and destroy this town and eat every human possible.
Yeah.
So
basically,
yeah. And then friggin' Drat is like, let me go kill Frieren. Like, thinking he's just gonna go down so, like, calmly into the dungeons, be like, I'm about to murder this fool because she's nothing.
She's like,
so he's like, he obviously, like, murders the guards, and he goes into her cell, and she's like, oh, you about to die. You have any last word? And she's like, oh, that's so cute. You think you can take me down with, like, a magic string around my neck? Buddy, who do you think I am? And just, like... oh god, I forgot how she gets him, but she just destroys him without even trying.
Yeah,
like,
he ties so he does tie these, like, because he has like these magical strings around her neck, and he thinks he got her, but she had like a mana sort of shield around her neck, and is not able to basically pierce her neck. And then just when he thinks he can cut her up with more strings, she essentially like cuts all of her strings, pins him down, and as he was about to deliver, like every other demon, right, some sort of like word of like trying to make her doubt, and you know how these demons have usually been doing all this time, right, to deceive the humans. Before he can even deliver a word, he's like, wait, but when and then she just like slices him up. Just cuts him up completely, cuts off his head. He couldn't even finish that sentence. I mean, the dude gets destroyed by Frieren like nothing. Yeah. No staff, didn't need it. That man went in there with a plan, came out pudding.
Just turned into ash and disappeared forever. And Frieren was just like, all right. Like some of the guards like, oh, ooh, that's bad. Yeah. And just again, like, all right, whatever, it's fine. So
yeah, then we have Luger and Leany, you know, trying to kill Graf and Granite, right? And what was Graf? Why were they trying to kill him? I forget.
Well, so
they are ultimately trying to kill him, but I forget how he gets stabbed.
Yeah, so Flamme is a genius, and that also alludes to...
Who's a genius?
Flamme.
Flamme, the master?
Frieden's, like, master.
Okay.
And so she made these defensive barriers for towns, so demons can't come in and out at all. Basically, the barrier recognizes human bodies, but they don't recognize demons or whatever. And so the Granite family... basically were told how to keep the spell alive, and they were given a fake grimoire to pretend like they had it written down, but really it's passed down orally through tradition. And so the demons were like, let's trick him into thinking we're gonna get peace, but really we just want him to lower the barriers so we can ravage the town. And so he realizes that really there's no real peace discussions, because I think he overhears what they're saying and then tries to kill them. But that's when Ludner's like, you fool! And then just pierces him in the kidney. And is like, don't worry, I didn't try to kill you because I know you know how to take down the barriers to tell us how to do it. So they bring him up to like this room to try to force him to tell them. And he's like, basically, I'm not going to tell you. I'll die out. It's fine. Meanwhile, Frieren finds Fern and Stark is just like, all right, you two handle this business inside. You're strong enough. Like you are bosses over here. You don't need to work. You don't need me to handle this. I'm gonna go deal with Aura the Guillotine because I feel the mana from the demons coming.
I believe
closer.
Frieren even went with like air quotes the guillotine, and then she just like kind of like giggled a little bit, did the whole Anya like smug the guillotine. I'm just kidding, she didn't, guys. That would have been perfect though.
Although it would be funny because that fits since she was the same voice actress for Anya.
True.
So that would have been funny. She would have like pulled out a random Anya card at the same time. But no, she's like, I trust you two. You two know what you're doing. And really, spoiler alert, we all know that they do. We know that Stark and Fern have trained long enough to be able to handle these lowly demons that look like they're OP, but they're not. And she's like, I'm gonna go handle the big boss. Y'all handle the mini bosses here, and we'll reconvene later. And so, yeah, so it leads to Stark finding, or Lugner, or not Lugner, Graf Granite, and tries to help him. And Graf's doing the heroic, like, don't save me, kid. I'm going to die anyway. And Stark's like, the hell you are. And then Graf was like, don't speak to royalty like that. And then just like basically this whole argument back and forth until Lord Lugner walks in and is like, that's my hostage. What are you trying to do? And then they start to fight for a little bit. But then I think he is a distraction for Fern to basically hit him with Zoltak's, I think, attack that he used to use, but has been turned around to be used against demons, right? That's what happens?
Right. A lot of the spells that Frieren, Himmel, Heater, and Eisen fought against when the Demon King was still around, a lot of that magic that the demons used and the Demon King used, since it's been like a lot of years, humanity has actually reconstructed or like re-engineered a lot of that magic to serve now humanity for their well-being anyways. So yeah, they're pretty, Lugner and Leni are pretty much surprised that Fern has all this type of magic that, they used to know to be demonic, right? Which is, I think, the surprise that Qual the demon found himself on the last episode that we talked about. So yeah, they get, Lugner gets pushed back.
Yeah, he gets surprised by Fern with her magic, and it doesn't kill him because his magic is blood magic, so he can heal himself, but it's not as quickly as he's used to. So he's like surprised, and that's when Fern and Stark are like, okay, we got lucky this time, but the next time they're gonna be prepared for us. And so they're now freaking out because they're trying to keep. They get Graf to a healer, but they're not. What they also don't realize is that Lugner also has a trick with his blood magic to where if his blood is on someone, he can track them down. They can't hide. And so little do Stark and Fern know is he's got his blood on them. So he's like, I'm not even worried about it. They can pretend like the village chief is fine, whatever, but I know where they are, and we're good. So everything seems fine at first. They think they're coming up with a strategy, and then they realize that, the blood is coming off of either one of us. Whose blood is it? And that's when Fern realizes whose blood it is, and it's too late. And then Lord Lugner's like, surprise, what's up? You thought you could escape us? That's not gonna happen. Not at all. And so then he like surprises them. I believe that's what happens.
And then Fern just kind of spits on his face. He's like, what, bitch? I knew. So what if you're here? I'm just kidding. I wish that Fern would have spit on his face. They basically divide themselves up, right? Fern versus Lugner, and Leni versus Stark. Leni because it looks like she's more of the melee type, a hand-to-hand like Stark. So they just kind of divide up the fight that way. Fern basically takes on Lugner. Lugner soon finds out that Fern isn't just like this like little girl who like knows a little bit of magic. She clearly can stand on her own. He tries to take her out lots of times with his blood magic, but Fern's just kind of defending with all her basic spells. Because spoiler, but Fern uses really basic magic because one of the basic things that Frieren told her was that she doesn't need to use like anything crazy to be able to defeat anybody with magic in this type of time period. So at some point, Lunar thinks he's got Fern. Fern's like, nah. She does like the whole I'm OP, you're nothing but a bug, Lunar, and she kills Lunar. And Stark takes a little bit longer.
Well, Stark takes a little bit longer because what we find out about Lily?
Yeah, Lily.
Lily, she basically copies any technique that she sees, any fighting technique. Mm-hmm. So she basically mastered Aizen's technique. And so here's Stark fighting against the very, you know, technique that he was taught. And he's having a hard time keeping up with it because he's just like, how do I, like, Aizen was strong, and, like, it's almost as if, like, ours mirrors each other too much. And then what he realizes is, like, the difference between her and Aizen is, well, Aizen hits stronger. So he's like, I'm going to take this blow from her, and then I'm just going to, like, kill her in one fell swoop because that's what it's going to take. So he kind of went in realizing that he might die from the situation, but he'd rather take it so he could kill her, and he's able to accomplish that. But the other thing too that plays out that's key in the battle with Lord Lugner is something that we learned about Frieren's training with Flame is learning how to conceal your mana to make yourself. What's excuse me? I don't know what's.
It makes them sneeze, guys. That's it. And Anbu just used sneezing magic.
Yeah, sorry. Too much mana going on here. But what is interesting is, like, a lot of what Frieren taught Fern comes into play in this situation because she conceals her mana, so Lord Lugner doesn't think of her as a threat.
No, not a threat. Oh, here we go. What? Mayo, say Mayo.
Every time it's like I talk about Lord Lugner versus Fern, it's like my body's like, oh, you talking some bullshit again? Hold on a sec.
Here's some Here's some sneezes.
No, but it's but yeah, in her fight with him, third time's the try. Here we go. He realizes that the reason why he underestimated Fern was because she had learned how to conceal the level of her mana, like how Flame had taught Frieren to do. Because in a battle, in that situation, like, concealing how strong you are helps you have an advantage because your opponent underestimates you. Because in the world that they lived in, it seems like to be not like an honorable thing to do, but it's the thing to do to survive because a lot of other because it helps you to survive. And the thing with demons is they will never hide their mana because they're so prideful and arrogant about their
how powerful they are.
So it turns out to be his arrogance turns out to be his reason for losing.
Yeah, no, for sure. But yeah, it took a while for Lini because, like Anbu said, right? She's basically able to master people's techniques. Eventually, I think he does something brash, which I think is kind of like something Aizen would have still done too, but not really necessarily a technique, right? He just kind of takes the hit from Lini straight to the body, but uses that opportunity to hold her down and then takes her out, right? Yeah. I mean, he took a lot of damage, but nothing that our guy hadn't already been taking, because he took quite a beating before he figured out he could do that or should do that. But eventually Lini goes down as well. So Lunar and Lini out. Eventually now it comes down to the cool fight, which you guys really need to definitely watch this anime because it was a really cool scene to watch. Frieren versus Aura, the quote unquote the guillotine. So here's Aura outside of town with this huge army of like undead like soldiers ready to go ahead and just like ravage the town, and she's holding this sort of like legendary weapon that's like a what is it called, oh my god,
It's a scale
A
because what she
scale.
does,
Thank you.
yeah. So what her technique is, and the reason why she's known as like OP, is because she uses a scale to basically subjugate people to her will. So if your mana level or spirit level doesn't match hers or doesn't beat hers, then she can control your body as she pleases for eternity. Most people are clearly not going to have a higher level of mana than demons are because they devote themselves to studying magic. Their whole entire thing is their strength is mana, and so we know that there's a lot. So basically, her whole entire army that she has to get ready to destroy this kingdom is her fallen soldiers that she has amassed over the hundreds of years, or yeah, hundreds of years, getting ready for this moment. So again, she's like, I'm so strong. Frieren's energy looks like it's nothing because she was taught how to shrink her mana to like a tenth of what she actually has to hide it. So she's like, oh, this is going to be easy. Why would you, like, you think you can take me on, whatever. And then what also is crazy is Frieren is, I think, purifying the souls too and releasing them. So she's using mana a lot because she's not using her flashy moves like she did last time. Because, again, Himmel was like, be honorable and be respectful because, you know, these are people that families lost. These are people that, you know, families hoped they would see come back. So don't just like burn them and use your flashy techniques. Let them rest properly. So Aura is already like, well, all right, like Frieren's batting over 2. She's used up a lot of mana doing this, and also she's a weakling, so I'm going to win with the scales. And Silver, as you've said, Frieren's like, whatever.
Yeah, she does the Aura does the whole scale thing, and she grabs like a, I guess the equivalent of what Frieren's mana would be to scale it against her, right? So we literally see the scale of, you know, Aura and Frieren's mana, and they weigh each other, and it looks like Aura basically weighs way more. But this is while Frieren is like basically holding back her and her actual capacity of mana. And then Aura thinks she's going to win and starts getting ready to basically, you know, kill Frieren at this point because she thinks Frieren is not going to be able to move because now, you know, Frieren's under her command. Plot twist. Frieren just kind of like does this whole like not to bring another anime, right? But what's it called? Jujutsu Kaisen, yeah. Like she basically does her own domain expansion and lets loose, and then the scale immediately tilts the other way around. Aura just kind of like freezes on her toes, and she's like, oh wait, what? Huh? You were holding back all this time? Frieren just kind of like walks away, and it's like, just cut your head off.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Aura the guillotine does. She guillotines herself, and the credits roll just like her head. That's literally the coolest thing you get to see is Aura's point of view of Frieren walking away while her head literally rolls off of her shoulders.
Yeah.
It was so cool to watch.
I mean, my personal favorite fight out of that whole entire sequence was Lugner versus Fern, because the way that he was trying to dodge and the way that the shot sequence was like trying to show it being a battle of attrition, it was really cool to see Fern just kind of being like, I'm just gonna hold my pose like this and keep shooting at him, and he's gonna keep trying to block it, but he can't do anything about it because I can just keep like putting more and more shots out. And then switching to Stark versus Lily's fight, like all the fights in that sequence were well done. I'll just say that.
Oh
like,
yeah. I think all the
stellar.
fighting sequences so far in this anime have been fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, this is probably like one of the earlier tastes that you get of the fight scenes. And I mean, the other one's also Stark when he's fighting the dragon. That one was pretty cool too.
Yeah.
But or when they're fighting Qual. But this one was also a pretty good flex from the studio. This was a also really well animated and put out and laid out. I really enjoyed it. It was wonderful.
But also, don't forget that the other thing too, in these episodes, that's kind of crucial is we see Frieren. Frieren, when she was younger, she was a badass already before she even met Flamme, because she, or Fawn. I keep saying Flamme, but it's Fawn. What am I doing? Now I'm the one messing up. But Fawn finds her elf village destroyed and the demon killed, and Frieren laying like basically on her knees, after having fought. And Fawn's like, "Oh, you just took care of this demon by yourself?" And Frieren's like, "But I wasn't strong enough to take care of my village." And so that's when Fawn realizes the genius of Frieren, and then teaches her the stuff about like the mana reduction. So we see like how much of a toll it takes, and everything, and learning how to use the spell to reduce your mana while also like still growing and increasing your capabilities. So like it's a really cool moment to see that happen.
Right. We get to see that bit of a past from Frieren, right? Like when she was the student and Flom was was teaching her and showing her how to suppress her mana, and and of course seeing how Frieren was this normal elf girl from a village that was attacked by demons, right? So I just remember this, right? Frieren has a long history with demons, so yeah, she definitely has you could say a bit of a hatred towards them.
Yeah,
I don't know if she actually does, but now that I think about it, she has more reason than anybody to have hatred for the demons.
And then also what I love about this moment too is, we've talked about how Frieren has a love for magic because of Himmel and his whole like complimenting her magic and her abilities, and that made her happy to where she started doing more magic. But what was interesting is, in juxtaposition to this, when Fawn's close to her death, right, she asked Frieren, "Do you love magic still?" And she said, "I don't know." And it's interesting how like that changes, because we've known Frieren as like this obsessive, everything is grimoire for her and magic, but we see this moment before that where she's like, I think it's that moment of like, magic wasn't enough to save my village, so I don't know if I love it, because is it ever going to be enough? And I love that juxtaposition of that moment, from that versus her love for it because of Himmel, and then also how much of a badass she is when she's fighting Aura. It's such a little neat moment, but I love how that plays out in the story.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think the only thing that happens after the conclusion of this entire little demon interaction is the royal guy, what's his name again? Guy that got Graf
Granite,
thanks them, admits to them, the spell to protect the town is, not really in this grimoire. I really don't have a way to thank you, I think, right? I think he pays them, but like not really anything else, because the grimoire is like fake. Go ahead.
Well, the only other thing I was going to say too was Graf found his son's body.
Oh yeah, he gave him peace. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So not only is it like a thank you for saving our village, but thank you for bringing my son home.
And the other what's it called, the other knights. Yeah.
So
they move on, I think, to another village, right? To the one where Frieren was supposed to come back. She had predicted that she was going to go back, I don't know how many years later, for the hero's sword.
Hold on, that's after this. They actually were getting ready to go, but they got caught in the winter storms, remember? So they couldn't get there because of the blizzard, because they helped stay with the town to help restore the town after all the damage that they did fighting. And then to help bury and everything, and they got new clothes. Basically Graf was like, if you stay here, you're gonna be like thank you'd and celebrated and everything else. And then they're like, let's go, and then blizzard. So this is when they get to an emergency shelter at the base of the mountain, and then that's when they run into this dude doing squats in the cabin, and Fern's like, "We can't stay here. There's a pervert in there." And then he's just
Oh,
like,
that's true. That's the other elf guy, right?
"That's Kraft." Yeah.
Oh
So
yeah.
she's like, "There's a pervert in here," and he's just like, "Oh, good, we can have a fire now because we have firewood now." And so we learn about Kraft at least on his current journey, where he's become a priest, like Hyder was.
Yeah.
And so him and they like basically they're willing to share the shelter for the winter. He has supplies that he has them help him bring in so they can be able to survive the winter together. I think Stark has a cold at some point, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's how Stark and Kraft meet. Kraft is basically shirtless, and Stark too under covers because Stark was freezing to death, and I think he had a fever. And then he just kind of wakes up to a basically half naked man in the same under the same sheets as him, and nothing that's wrong with that, But Stark doesn't go that way. So obviously that surprised him quite a bit.
He was like, "Huh? What?" And then Kraft was like, "That's a funny way to wake up, to thank somebody who just saved you with his body heat." And just like, it's a funny little moment. And I think that's what I also love about Frieren too, is like we get these funny moments. There's like somebody wrote in the comments in Crunchyroll, they're like, "I've never known an anime that can do a slice of life, but also a fantasy, but then also like an action, but then also a comedy, but then also drama, and pack it all together really well." And Frieren does that. And I love that Frieren can do that so effortlessly. Because, like, I forget what he was dreaming about, but he was dreaming about something that, like, made him feel warm. And then he just wakes up to his head is resting on Croft's arm as they're laying under the sheets, like, half naked. He's just like, "Huh? What?" And then just, like, freaks out. And it's a fun little moment, but I adore. I think it's a good reprieve.
No, for sure. And Kraft, I think, is a really cool character that I hope to see a bit more of later on in the series, right? Because this is basically them just kind of like finding a place to take shelter for. It wasn't only a day; it was like for a week, I think, right, or 2 weeks. They were there for a bit, and during that entire like really cold period that they were that had to stay in that cabin.
6 months.
Oh shoot, 6 months.
It was a long time.
So they really got to meet Kraft.
Yeah. So like there was
really got close to Kraft.
He also, well, because it brings up, there's a point when Kraft asks Frieren if I think if Fern would want to join the goddesses, like whatever, priesthood, because of how diligent she is, because of how often she prays. And I think Frieren's like, well, she was taught that because she lived with Hyder, and and that leads to this whole discussion on religion, because as we know in previous episodes, Aizen and Frieren were like, well, before humans made up religion, we always just believed that there was nothingness when death comes. But then Hyder was like, isn't it nice to have something to believe in that's comforting for when it's your time to go? Right. So that's how Frieren ran into Aizen to find Fawn's grimoire, is because he was keeping their tradition of praying at this statue or something that they met at. And so it was interesting to see Croft, who lives for thousands of years as an elf, believe in a goddess, because we don't know how long elves live, but they live a really long time. So for this man to believe in something that was built for humans to be able to find comfort when their time comes, it was interesting.
For sure.
Yeah.
But again, I think it goes back to how you choose to survive life, right? Whether no matter what you are, whether you were a dwarf, human, elf, or I guess even demon, right? I guess here it's taken as a cool mechanic to believe in, to kind of maybe even keep you sane, especially for somebody that's living is going to be living over 1,000 years, right?
Yeah.
But now I know why you don't want to speed through all the way up to episode 12. I just remembered why. Why you don't want to
Uh,
talk about episode 12.
we're gonna get to episode 12 here. Don't worry, we're gonna get there because I'm still gonna be screaming expletives at you. Don't worry. Everybody that is sitting around this table listening to us chat, you're gonna see me getting a little bit riled up because this man right here, he did warn me. I'm not gonna deny it. He warned me. He was like, "You're not prepared for what comes for later on in the series. You are not. You thought you were gonna cry from like episode 1. You're gonna cry from episode 12, buddy. Let me tell you." And I was like, "No, no, 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 no. I already know how the series is gonna go. I'm fine. I'm gonna be good with it." And I freaking bawled my eyes out on episode 12 because it just like pulled at my heartstrings. Because God, it's such a gut wrenching episode. So we're technically through episode 11 right now, Silver. So we're gonna get to 12. Don't worry. But in the end of this, like basically they have a discussion on like how the goddess praises those who follow her and gives her blessing to them. So like Croft's like, don't you have like someone who you wish praises you like the goddess praises me? And it leads to Hyder talking about how he will having someone to praise Frieren because she'll be alone and she'll be like an orphan. So Kraft is like, oh, then I'll just praise you and make sure that the goddess praises you or whatever. And so it's like this really nice gesture, but it's also like to Frieren, it's like, I guess like if it makes you feel better, then do it. And so at the end of this episode, it's springtime, everybody's ready to go, and he's just like, I'll see you in 50 years. That's no time, whatever. And I'm like, I remember when I heard him say this so casually, I was just like, this man's like, I'll see you in 50 years. I'm gonna be dead before he finds like Frieren again. Like, elves and their sense of time is insane, but it makes sense because even Frieren was like, 50 years isn't that long when she was to meet Himmel, Hyder, and Eisen again. Just elves, man.
Yeah, else, bro. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I see you in the back. I'm talking about you all over there. How long have you been? You know what? Don't tell me. I know it's Redasbot. I guess it's Redasbot age.
They saw the tavern get built. That's how old they are.
Oh man, that's a long time. Oof.
Yeah, but the hero's sword, right? I think it was after the blizzard.
Yep.
They go visit finally a town after they're finally able to get out of that. Herbert crafts cat. I'm just kidding. No, Craft's not a pervert. After parting ways with Craft, they get to a town where there is a demon that is attacking them. Well, not a demon. What do they call it? Is it? Do they call it a demon, or is it the Lord of the? They could call it the Lord of something.
Like Lord of the. I think it was like Lord of the Monsters or something. I don't think I wrote it down.
They basically, they're there. The town's getting attacked by this huge monster. Frieren was supposed to come back for the hero sword and take care of this weird monster. Turns out to be like a werewolf of sort. They obviously dispatch it very easily because they just finished killing a bunch of demons. A large werewolf is basically not going to be a big deal. But I think they talk a little bit more about the history from Himmel, right? On this episode.
So in this episode, we get the big reveal, right? So the legend of the hero sword is that it kind of like, what is it? The Excalibur, where it's like when the true hero comes and it is time, the sword will come out, and that's when they'll lead like to the world to peace or whatever. And Himmel, in his whole entire life, was like, I know I have a replica of the hero sword, but I'm going to train with this sword until I can become the hero. And also, what we find out is that the reason why these monsters keep showing up is because the sword, for some reason, draws demons to it. They want to get to it. They want to either break it, take it, whatever. And so that's when we learn in this cave, in this town, that the hero sword is there. So all of a sudden now the big twist is that Himmel, who we know as the hero, the one that ended the Demon King and did everything he needed to do, actually wasn't the prophesized hero. The sword is still there. So what I think this symbolizes and what Frieren touches upon after they find out is like that just because stories like this, legends and myths and everything, they don't define what a person can be, right? Like you can be who you set out to be so long as you continue to work for that, you pursue it, you get into that. So in the story, even though Himmel didn't get the hero sword, Himmel was still the hero because he became the hero regardless of the legend. So I think that's what again is so big in the story of Frieren Beyond Journey's End is like your past doesn't define you, and also you define yourself. Like you define your present. You define your journey in life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's so crucial to the stories because we've known Himmel as the hero, but according to legend, he wasn't the true hero. But as we all know, that's not the case. He really was the hero that took down the Demon King.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, everybody's usually hoping that somebody else fixes the issues in the world, but very few ever say, you know what, I'm gonna stop waiting for somebody to fix the problems in the world, and I'm just gonna be the one that goes and fixes things. It just happens that it was them, and it wasn't followed like the lore was supposed to be. And at the end of the day, the Demon King was still defeated, and Himmel became the legend that he is now known across the land, right? Yeah. And that's why they're all known. I mean, that's one of the reasons why Frieren had given up on defeating the Demon King. Remember, I mean, they went searching for her. She thought that it was too late, or that she couldn't do anything, and I mean that she had forgotten how to fight demons, yada yada yada, because I guess she thought that eventually somebody would do it, or eventually she would get to it in a few more decades. But Himmel found her, pushed her, and they got it done, so you don't have to be the chosen one to be able to do things. You don't have to wait for the chosen one. Sometimes there isn't. Sometimes we tell stories to make ourselves feel better. Maybe the stories were like, oh yeah, there will be one day a chosen one, and that's just to kind of like get you through the day, but in reality there might just never be a chosen one. So
well, I think also it's to inspire, right? And I think what happens with legends and everything, and I think this is what Frieren touches upon really well, is like the legends are there to inspire, but they don't define people. They don't define who gets to be what. There's no set rules. Like at the end of the day, Himmel was the hero that he set out to be. He became who he said he was going to be. He saved the world from the Demon King. He vanquished everything. The world became peaceful for the most part. I mean, obviously, there's still going to be...
For the most part. Violence is always going to exist everywhere. Yeah, conflict is always going to exist. It's part of the world. It's how we evolved. I mean, conflicts is meant to exist to be able to move the world. You can't have life without conflict. It's just yin-yang, I guess.
But like, it's like everything that we see in the story leading up to this moment has indicated that like people get to define who they want to be, so long as you work towards it and you keep pushing yourself. We see that with Fern, where she wanted to become a mage because she felt she owed it to Hyder, and she was never going to stop, and she worked towards it and she made it. We see it with Stark, where he believed he would always be a failure and a coward, but when he was willing to let himself do what was required, he was able to do it, and now he is the warrior that he was always meant to be. And again, with Himmel, even though he didn't get to pull the hero sword out, he was still the hero that everybody adores to this day. So that's what I love about this show, is like it talks about how no matter what happened in the past, we define who we are in the moment and in the present. Which leads to, after that, which fuck you, Silver, for this next part. Thank you very much. We get to the next village, and it's Stark's 18th birthday. Oh, yay. Good old Stark. The poor boy who just God.
Tell us,
Um,
Anbu. Let me
he
hear it.
so like
Let me
guys
bask
like
in it.
we know in the
This is how I
previous
feed,
episodes
guys.
like Aizen says that um was the only one that survived in his village because he was a coward, right? And so Stark has always believed that it was his fault that he did because he didn't do anything, that basically he lives with the guilt of he was never good enough to be a hero or a warrior. So he will always be the coward, and that's always played into who he was. I mean, like even in his first battle with the Sun Dragon, he didn't really stand off with him. He was too scared to move. So Stark had always believed, no matter how strong he had gotten, he would always be the coward that he believed himself to be. He would always be the failure that his father had always told him what he would be, because he could never be what his brother was. And his brother was godly in terms of the warrior, in terms of who he was as a warrior. He was everything his father wanted him to be, but in contrast, Stark wasn't. And so what we see during his 18th birthday is like, you know, the tenderness that and compassion of his brother versus who his father was to him. And so we see why Stark is who he is. But to be a little bit more happy before we get into this, right? He runs off. He's like doing all these things to help people in the village, and then Fern's like, "I want to go say give him like a birthday gift or whatever because of this and all that." And like she catches him, and she's like, "Oh, those clouds look like boobs." Oh, that cloud looks like a turd. He's like, it looks like a turd. So I should tell Fern this, and Fern's just like, ill, no. But like they had an argument for over something. I forget what it was, but they always have an argument, and then they end up like talking to each other, and then they end up getting a gift for him, and she basically gets him like a bracelet for his arm. And then Frieren, that's what it was. Frieren was gonna give him a potion that burns clothes off of people. And Fern was like, "You're not giving him that." So she poured it all over Frieda, and Frieda's like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Pervert." And so yeah, as we're
Right.
like,
Fern calls Frieren the pervert, while Fern is the one that just literally poured a bunch of like clothes melting potion
yeah,
over Frieren. I just can't with Fern.
yeah,
I love how much of a what's the term, a tsundere she is.
she's great. It's great, but like intermixed in with this current story, we're seeing how Stark never celebrated his birthday because he wasn't a warrior. Like he hadn't killed a demon or a monster yet when he was just 5 years old. Like he was just a kid, and he was expected to kill his own his own monster by himself, and his dad was disappointed in that. But then we also see like how his brother was compassionate and was like, "You don't need to be who we think you are. You should just be Stark." And the part that killed me, the part that like destroys me, is so Frieden cooks him a giant hamburg steak as a birthday thing, because according to Aizen, that was tradition for warriors, was to have a giant hamburg steak. And so it reminds him of his brother, who cooked him one secretly while his parents were asleep because it was his birthday. And then we see the reason why Stark ran. So when Stark's village gets ransacked by demons, and we're talking like strong ones, this is during a time when villages weren't prepared for the Demon King's forces. His brother tells him, "You need to run. You need to live. Like, don't fight. Run. Save yourself. And I'll be right behind you." And just seeing that moment, like, killed me because, one, it's like Naruto a little bit, in the sense of, like, he's like the weakling, nobody likes him, they pick on him. But even more so, like, again, it's a reminder that like your past doesn't define you. Because look at Stark now. He's courageous. He's brave. Yeah, he ran back then, but now we know that he didn't run just because he wanted to run. He ran because his brother said you need to survive. So in a way, he wasn't really a coward. He, I mean, he did what I think any sane human would think about doing. And so it just killed me because it's a little boy who became an orphan now, who blames himself for the death of his village, when really he was just a kid. And
Yep.
fuck you, Silver, for making me feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, it was great making Nambu feel like shit.
Oh.
No, but you know, it goes back to expectations from, and I think we can all relate to it, right? The expectations that our family set upon us, right? Because this poor kid had expectations to uphold, that should only be upheld by adults, you know, like. So were you expecting this kid to fight these demons and then succeed? I mean, let's be honest. Like even his brother, who was supposed to be like the perfection or the best thing that entire clan had to offer, or that village had to offer, couldn't defeat those demons at his prime. Do you think that when the son, when the brother was a kid, also at Stark's age, would have even had a chance? Also, like, no, like, did they just want Stark to die also? Would that have been, I don't know, man. You know, the expectations were crazy. You know, Stark was just born a sweet boy who, yes, has the capacity to be a great warrior, which we're seeing right now. But yeah, it was really sad to see those expectations be laid out on such a young kid, you know, and made me felt like have him feel like he is not worth the family's name or the time, you know, or to be consistently reminded how his brother is much better than him, you know, and how he's never going to live up to that expectation. But thankfully, you know, he had a good brother who actually loved him, who actually cared about him, who actually, you know, tried to give him the best he could, while, you know, at the same time, I guess technically hiding it from their parents. But also goes to show how, you know, still Frieren and Eisen have still care and to a point, I guess, care and love Stark. Right, he's had two good adults watching over him still, and Fern, I guess, was sort of reminded to kind of take it easy on him too, right? That he's not what she thinks he is. I mean, I think she's just used to seeing these like horrible type of man, because I guess she got to see Heater and how he sort of lived his life. And Heater wasn't the best example of the most gentlemanly type of individual. So I guess he expects Stark to be also sort of like a pervert, which to a point he is, but not like in a bad way. Like I think, like just like Ambu just said right now, oh look, that cloud looks like boobs. Oh, but that also looks like poop. But he still has the innocence to say, I should show this to Fern, without considering Fern is going to think this is stupid. He's just like, oh, look, this is really cool. I'm going to show it to the person that I guess he the first person he thinks of first and cares about. And it looks like it's Fern. Wink, wink, Ambu.
Well, it's like, oh god. I mean, yes, okay. I'm like, let's be real here. I'm up to episode 18 now, and like, all I can say is like, just date already, because like you two just, God, it's so blatantly obvious between you two. But no, you two are just like, huh? What are emotions? Do I like you? I think I don't not like you. It's like, no, don't play around. Just say it. Like that's the thing about Frieren also is just tell people how you feel. Because even though Himmel is a risk commander, he could have literally just told Frieren, I love you. Let's get married. I know I don't live as long as you, but let's get together. I think if he would have said something like that, at least it would have, the seeds that he planted, the proverbial seeds.
It would have been a different seed he would have been planting. Am I right?
God.
Chat.
Barky, can I have another meeting real quick, please? I'm sorry, just I need it. But like, it's just that's the other thing about the show that I think is so interesting is like, it's all about telling people that you care about how you feel and not being afraid to say it, right? Like, at the end of the day, you could do a million gestures to show that you care about someone. But like, if you are worried about saying something to someone, then don't be. Now, unless if like it's someone that you never talk to and then you just kind of come up out of nowhere and be like, "I love you." Don't say that. Like, don't be creepy. Don't like just think you know somebody or whatever. But like people that you care about, like don't be afraid to say like, "Poppy Silver, you're like a close friend of mine. You're like a bro." Like that's just how we are. Don't be afraid to say stuff like that because at the end of the day, like you don't know how much time you're gonna have with them, and why not tell them how you feel?
And that's why Ambu tells me "f you," you know, because why wait tomorrow when he can say "f you" today?
Exactly, 100%. But like, I think that's just what makes this show so strong. Is like, you know, let's be real here. Frieren could be like any other fantasy journey story, right? Like, it could be the typical hero's journey. It could be about their travels or whatever. But what I love about this show is it uses a lot of what we're familiar with to basically remind us to like live for who we want to be our present self, to not hold ourselves back because of our past, because that stifles growth. And then to also like not be afraid to tell people you love that you love them, because you may end up regretting not telling them. And I just and that's what I just love about the show is like it dives into stuff that I think typical fantasy animes don't dive into. And it's just good.
Yeah, it's good. It's good to make Ambu cry and to make him feel angsty and frustrated because Stark and Fern just won't just get it over with, you know. All I'm gonna say is that we get more sweet scenes later on, guys, and we'll talk about it more as this season comes to closing. Probably by the end of winter. Yeah, probably by summer it'll be done.
Yeah, because they're on episode, I think 22 right now, and there's 28 episodes that are coming out. So there's at least 6 more weeks. So it's gonna be like April is when the show is done.
Yeah, right now I think they are in the mage exam arc. So once that concludes, I think that's where we're gonna end up having to wait a little bit for the following arcs, which are going to be pretty far away still. But yeah, because there's still quite a bit to go. But it gets good. It gets better. Check it out, guys. Crunchyroll, right? I think it probably is still on Hulu. But if you get an opportunity, go check out this anime. Pick up the manga too. I'm hoping there's a light novel. I haven't really seen if there is or not.
I think there's one light novel that is on the Frieren website. It's a very short one.
There is. You're right. Right. There is. Yeah, we were talking about it last time. Okay, we'll check out the novel. Tell us about it. Tell us what you think. Tell us if you cried too. If you did, especially if you cried, let me know so that I can feast on ears.
And if you do, you could put a hashtag #FuckYouSilver for that.
FU for the algorithm, guys. FU Silver.
Yeah. FU Silver. Yeah. But no, this anime, you know, I genuinely believe that I'm glad to see more people are finally watching it because of all the gifs and all the memes and everything. But if you haven't watched it yet, you should. And you're gonna want to binge it. You're gonna want to like
this is a good time to binge it too, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. But like, you're gonna get a lot of good stories that connect so well together, and you're just gonna fall in love. Like, every character is so well done. There's no character I think that is underwritten or overwritten. Everybody is just perfect for who they are. So, once you turn this off, just go watch.
Go watch. And with that, guys, don't forget to check out our socials. Anbu has been doing an amazing job with her socials, which I really am thankful for Anbu for picking that up. So go give us a like, go give us a follow on Twitter. Go ahead and also do the subscribe thing like we do on YouTube, please. And yeah, you know what? Use the hashtag FUSilver so that way we know that you watched the anime and you listened to this episode. Please put that in the algorithm. I would love to trend as FUSilver. That would be wonderful.
And also, if there's something that you think we missed that's important in the anime, let us
nothing.
know.
We're perfect.
Honestly.
Shut up. We don't want to hear it. I'm just kidding.
Listen. No, but I mean, the thing with any podcast, right, is we want to create discussion. So, like, if you think we missed something, you could put FU Anbu, FU Silver as well, and just be like, this is what you missed. It's a key point of Frieren or whatever.
Plot twist. Plot twist. It starts trending FU Anbu.
Oh, God. But also, if you're sipping on that haterade and if you're just like, oh, man, I don't want to listen to these two guys talk about anime so much, then tell your anime friends to be like, hey, look, I don't like this, so I'm going to send it to you. Or like your enemies, just send them our way. Whatever. We'll take it.
But how much do you hate us, though, if you're at this point listening to this part? Huh? At this point, just like Stark and Fern, at this point, just let it happen. Just let it happen.
It's going to be fine. But yeah, follow us everywhere, like and subscribe, do your thing. As always, thank you for joining us here at the TBD Tavern. We always enjoy these conversations, and we thank you for being here.
Good night.
Good night.
And with that,